Hello everyone, happy Monday. Thanks for joining me here tonight. So we are going to start the embroidery of the month. This is our feeling good embroidery. We are starting it from scratch tonight and we'll be working on it this week. So thank you for coming to another craft night with friends. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make cute embroidery kits for beginners, and I'm here every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. So, all right, you guys, let's get going on this tonight. Thanks again for joining me here. All right, so here is the embroidery. We have the finished one here. I did bring the kit, so I'll be working on it from the kit. So if you have the kit, it comes with the pre-printed fabric. There's also a PDF and the fabric only if you are wanting to work on that. So, all right, I am going to get you guys here a little lower so we can get started. Okay, so let me know if you have the kit. I'm going to pop this one open. All right. So, on our freebie, this month is our project tracker. So this is just basically a notepad with a project tracker in it, so you can track every single one of your projects that you're working on. I usually just keep one with each project. The bigger projects that I know I'm going to have to come back to. So that's that, the little freebie. So, and here we are, the Feeling Good embroidery kit. Let's just grab what's in there. Here's the back. All right, hope y'all are having a lovely evening. Terry from Rochester, hello. Hi, Deborah. Hi, Gretchen. All right, let's get going on this. Okay. So all I need is my scissors, so I got that on hand here, and I just have I have a needle minder too. That's just like my little magnet. I like having it near me there. All right, we have a hoop, we have a little ribbon. This will decorate it at the end. I haven't put it on this yet, but we can use it to decorate that. All right, and we got our floss. We're stitching with the Garden Rose, the Euro Peach, the Goldenrod, the Teddy Bear, and the Denim Wash tonight. Oh, we got our little instruction book in here as well. So that has like the helpful tips and stuff for getting started. I show how to do like the way knot in it, how to separate your floss strands, all that. And we got our instruction sheet on how to do the different stitches. So I'm going to have this nearby me while I stitch because it has like the colors, where to use what colors, what stitches to use. So this is going to be my guide for the whole thing. So that's just on the back cover. All right, you guys, let's get going. So I'm going to have that just nearby me over here. And all right, we got our little needle that I'm just going to stick on the needle minder right away. All right, so you can press this if you want. I think we're just going to get started right away. So, all right, let's get it in the hoop. Hello, everyone. Oh, Marie from Wisconsin. All right, let's separate these hoops. I'm going to get the lower hoop, the inner hoop there, and let's get these guys on top. All right, so there we are. We're in the hoop. So I haven't tightened the hoop or anything. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So I like tightening it just a hair and then just pulling on it just a little bit so it's taut. I might actually loosen it here and there while we stitch just because some stitches, like a running stitch, that's all these dotted lines are going to be a running stitch. Dashed lines. That is sometimes easier with a looser fabric, but we will get to that. All right, I think I'm in here pretty well, so I'm going to just tighten it a little bit more here. Okay, let's get going. So I think, where should we start? I think I might start on the fun little circles of the sunshine. You can really start wherever you want. I sometimes start with the thing that's furthest back. So, like, for example, I think the sun is kind of behind the text. So I'm going to do that first. And sometimes I just start with something fun. And for me, getting those circles done, that's going to be done with the chain stitch. I think that'd be just a fun place to start. So, all right. So this outer one is with the You're a Peach color, and the inner one is the goldenrod color. And I'm also noting on here it says use 3 strands of floss. So we've been using 2 strands a lot lately. We are going to switch back to my friend, the 3 strands of floss. So all right, let's get our floss prepped. So I'm gonna take about my 24 inches or so of floss. We'll just snip it. I don't really go any larger than that. All right, and then to separate it, so it's 6 strands. So you can see it is made up of 6 strands of embroidery floss, so 6 strands. All I do to separate them, so I don't actually pull, you know, a lot of times you'll see people pull like 3 strands on this side and 3 strands on this side and pull. I don't do that anymore. I used to. But I found this way gets it so that you have a lot less knots when you're trying to pull them apart, and it's actually pretty fast. It doesn't seem as fast, but it really is. So I just kind of grab one. So you can see I just have like one here. Oh, you don't have any sound here? Do you guys have sound? Let me know if you can hear me. Someone on Facebook, I think, said that they didn't have sound here. So, all right, I'm going to pull the single strand out. All right, and then I'm going to run my hand through there. So that's our first strand. Let's do another one. So I'm going to just separate the one. Okay, Gracie, you can hear me. Okay, good. Good, thank you. Thank you. Oh, Debbie has sound. All right, you guys can hear me. It gets so weird because sometimes when I like reset, it freaks out. But all right, so I'm separating the one strand from the rest again, and I'm just gonna pull on that. It's gonna bunch up behind my fingers like that, and then it's just gonna release once I pull the whole thing out. And I can just, again, run my hand through that. It looks like it's full of knots, but it's really not. Yeah, and then one more. And I'm doing this slow, but once you get going, you can just pull them out real quick. So now this has 3 strands. This one's ready to go. And then these 3 I'm going to just put back together. I'm just going to kind of match those ends and run through. Oh, good. Elizabeth can hear too. Good. Sometimes you just never know. All right. I'm going to clean up this edge. That'll just make it a little easier to thread. So I'm just going to snip the edge. Then I'm going to grab my needle. So how I like threading a needle is the pinch method. So that's when I actually hold the ends. I don't hold it out like this. I don't like lick the thread and try and thread it this far away. I put it right in between my fingers and I pinch. So I open and close like the pinch, like a rocking motion. So I'm going to slowly open it. Like right now I can't see the ends of the thread. So I'm going to slowly open it. And the moment I can see the floss, the thread, I'm going to put my needle on top of it and kind of push down over it. And you can see it kind of goes in. So then I can just grab those ends. That is my go-to method of threading a needle. All right. Hello, everyone. Oh, Robbie says it was my fault the volume was down. Oh, okay. I just know that sometimes you guys are yelling at me and I don't realize it. That you can't hear me till like way later. All right. So with 3 strands of thread, I'm going to start by using the away knot method of starting. So I like starting, or I like stitching without any knots on the back. I can show you the back of my sample one. There is not a single knot on here. There are no knots, that's a better way of saying it. So I am weaving in all of the ends here, and that's so, first of all, it's a pretty secure way. Sometimes a knot can come loose, and I don't like having knots on the back because I don't like that my thread can accidentally catch on those knots. Thanks for the heart, I think, or the star. I appreciate that. Thanks, Nora. Yay, that's nice. All right, so I am going to a technique to start without any knots. We can't weave in the backs of anything because I don't have any stitches on here. We're going to do the away knot. So I'm going to tie a knot at the end, but we're going to actually get rid of this knot. We're going to just reserve a piece of thread. So, all right, I'm going to go around this outside circle here. So I'm going to start on the front about 4 inches or so away from my starting point. And bring the needle all the way in. And then I'm going to just go to where I want to start. So let's go like right here. So what we've done is we made like a really big stitch on the back. What we're doing is we're actually reserving our floss for later. So we will snip this away later and weave in the end. But now we can actually start. So we'll come back to that. All right, I'm going to do the chain stitch around this outside, and then maybe I'll show you guys how to do the reverse chain stitch for the inside one. That's sometimes a really nice stitch to use. It's an adaptation of the chain stitch basically. So I'm going to actually make the fabric a little looser in the hoop just by kind of pressing down on it. The chain stitch is easier to do, I think, sometimes if you have your fabric looser in the hoop. And we're going to do the sewing method for this. So I came up right there, and I'm going to go down back in that exact same hole. And in the same motion, I'm going to come up about a stitch length away. So like, about a 1/4 inch, maybe a little less than a 1/4 inch. You can do like an 1/8 inch or so. And then the thread that's coming out of the fabric there, not the one at the needle, I'm going to wrap that around the back of the needle like so. And then I will finish pulling through. And we will catch that loop with the little bit of floss there. All right, so that is our first chain stitch. So let's do it again. I'm just going to go back in the same exact hole that the thread is coming out. I'm actually going to be on the inside of that little loop as well. So in and out, stitch length away, then take the piece that's coming out of the fabric and wrap around. Whoa, that was scary. Did you guys hear that? Oh my gosh, I think my light just freaked out. All right. I totally just jumped. All right, there's my second stitch. All right. Oh, hello everyone. Hey Marie, hey Darlene, hey Wanda. All right, so another way I like doing this is kind of making this loop to start out with, and then I can go in and out and then pull right at the same time. I just need to come out on the inside of that loop so I can catch that loop. And you can see I'm not pulling the stitches too tightly, because I want to leave that kind of pretty bloop to it. Yeah, exactly, Gretchen. Wowza, zapped. Yeah, that's never done that before, so I'll have to check it out later. If it all goes dark here, then that. Yeah, Gina says it sounds like a rattlesnake. Yeah, I jumped a little bit. That was pretty loud. It's like some static or something in the light. All right. So I'm just going to keep going around here. And we are going to have ourselves like a really pretty little chain stitch going around there. So you might have seen me do this in another way before. Like right now I'm doing the sewing method where I go in and out in the same motion. But sometimes I do the stabbing method, which is where I go straight down in the fabric and I pull the needle all the way through, and then I come up, straight up. I go within that loop, and then I come back. So that's the stabbing method where you don't go in and out in the same motion. Oh, why the long thread? Oh, on this thread back here. So this is my, it's called an away knot. It's a type of waist knot. And what it's going to be is instead of tying a knot on the back to start, I did this instead. I'm basically reserving a piece of floss, and I'm going to later weave in that floss so I have no knots on the back. And that's going to give me a little cleaner back, and a lot cleaner back, really. And why it's going to be cleaner is because I'm not going to accidentally catch my thread, my working thread here, on any knots that are hanging out on the back, and I'm not accidentally going to pull like the little ends of the knot. I'm not going to accidentally pull those through to the front because they won't exist. I'll be weaving it in. So I will show you the magic of the away knot right when I run out of this floss. So theoretically, the easiest way to start is just tying a knot and starting to stitch, right? But yeah, the reasons I don't like using knots are, again, I think my thread will accidentally catch on them. Like, I could just catch on it like this on a knot in the back and then not know it till like 30 stitches later, or like, until I run out of floss, and then it's just like, ugh, now I got this big loop on the back. So I kind of find them very annoying. And it's actually more secure to weave in your ends because just that back and forth motion of weaving it in. I weave it in 3 times. That kind of locks it in. And I'll show you what I mean in a sec here. And knots, sometimes if you rub on them a little, sometimes they actually can come out. So especially if it's going through the wash a lot, sometimes it can strengthen a knot, like sometimes it gets tighter, but sometimes it can actually loosen a knot, and that doesn't happen with the weaving in the ends. Oh, Ellie, thank you, I appreciate that. So I don't have much thread left. I'm probably going to need another piece of this. This is called Euro-Peach, this color. I'm probably going to need another piece before I get to the other end, so I'll show you how to stop and start a new piece. Chain stitch takes a lot of floss. Some stitches just take a lot more floss than others, and I'm actually running pretty low for a chain stitch. It's getting harder and harder to, I'm getting less and less thread to wrap around here, so it's getting a little bit more difficult. And when you get to that point, it's usually time to switch threads. But I'm going to just try and keep wrapping it around until I can't anymore. So I'm doing it like how I did at the beginning here. I'm going in and out and then wrapping the floss that's coming out of the fabric around the back. Pulling it. Don't pull too tight. You want to keep that little teardrop shape. If you pull too tightly, then you'll have it'll just look like two straight stitches right next to each other. We want that loop in there, so it's got that pretty chain looking bit. All right, I think I'm going to actually stop right here. We're definitely not going to make it that last little pass, which is a huge bummer. Maybe if we had this extra little piece of floss that we saved on the back or if I would have just cut my thread maybe, 4 more inches, we would have been fine, but that's okay. To end the floss, so I can't just stop, right? Because my floss is at the front here, and with the chain stitch, it'll just come loose and kind of like travel up the floss. So we don't want that. So I do a small, tiny stitch just on the other side of that stitch, and that is called an anchor stitch. So I'm going to just go right on the other side, so you can just see right on the other side of that loop there, and we're just making that itty bitty 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 stitch. So all right, there you can see it just it's holding down that final loop. All right, so I still have this piece of thread on my needle. I'm going to use this to weave in the remaining bit here. I'm going to weave in into the backs of the stitches. So I'm not tying a knot. I'm going to just weave, grabbing a few of those stitches. So I'm going to do that 3 times. So that was 1. Now I'm going to go back the other way. I really want to grab as much thread, like go in and out in different spots than I came up on. So that's the second one. And then this third one is kind of what locks it in place. There we go. So now I can pull the needle off. I'm going to just toss that over at my needle minder there. And I can actually snip this. I don't have to even leave an end. I can snip it like right close to the backs of the stitches there. So there I have no knots. It's super nice and flat. I'm not going to accidentally hook anything onto it. Like I'm not going to hook another piece of thread on it because there's nothing to grab onto. We're good to go. All right, so let's go back to this little feller, our away knot that we started with. Now I'm going to snip that off. Oh, thanks so much, Linda. I appreciate that. Yeah, and feel free, you guys, to ask any questions along the way. I'm actually, for you YouTube and Facebook people, I'm also live on TikTok right now. And for you TikTok peeps, I am doing my nightly live on Facebook and YouTube. I do nightly lives there every night, and I'm hoping to do them here on TikTok a little bit more. It's easy when I just have one camera here like this, but I do sewing and stuff too, so I don't know if I'll be doing all that on TikTok, but for now, for this embroidery, I'll be on TikTok as well. All right, so I just snipped that knot away, so our little knot, which released our about 4 inches or so that we had at the beginning here, right? So all I'm going to do with that is thread it. Again, I'm using that pinch method. And there, we got that on the needle. Let's weave that in here. Oh, thanks, Allison. So let's weave in that end the same way we just did. So this is where we started. We didn't start with a knot. We started with that, like, reserving that piece. So that's 1. I have just enough to go 3 times, it looks like. 2 and 3. There we go. And our back is looking super great and clean. Let's snip that off. All right, so that is our first piece of thread. Here is the back. And there we go. There's the front again, that pretty chain stitch. So after I have some stitches on my piece, I don't really have to do that away knot anymore, like how we started with that reserve. I can just weave in the backs of stitches that already exist. The only other time I'd want to maybe do an away knot is if I was starting a whole other section. Like if I wanted to start this like letter D or something way down here, I probably wouldn't weave into the backs of these stitches and jump way down there. I would just start another away knot there. But all right, so we have our second piece of floss. This is that other half of the 6 strands. This is our other group of 3. So I'm going to just thread that. Let's grab the needle again here. So again, I'm doing that pinch method, squishing it in your fingers, and then as you release, get the needle right over that. If you can't get it, like the first or second time, snip the ends again. Just get a nice clean ends there. And I mean, obviously, it helps with a nice embroidery needle. Like these are our embroidery needles that we got an extra big eye on. So that big eye helps get the thread through there a whole lot easier. All right. Whoa, it's talking again. Scary light. I'm gonna jump like every time that does that tonight. Gosh, I wonder if it just is got a bulb out or something. Ugh. All right. So I'm not gonna tie a knot in it this time. So it's just nothing. There's nothing on the end right now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weave in the ends right next to where I left off here. Sometimes I forget. So, okay, it's this side. So over here. So I want to start here, so I'm going to actually start a little farther away, and I'm going to go towards that spot for my first stitch. And I can pull it almost all the way in, or you can leave a little end there. We can snip it off. Okay, and 2, going back up this way. Again, in as many other places as I can compared to that first way. And then 3, I'll end up back at that starting point. There you go. And if you have excess here, I mean, I don't really have all that excess, but all that much. But if you do, you can just snip it close to the end there again. All right. Oh, Darlene got started on the granny squares. Oh, are you having fun with them? That project has been so fun. I kind of want to do a few more. I mean, not a whole quilt, but I'd love to do more of those little granny squares. That's just so fun. All right. So we're locked in there, right? So I can just get going again. Okay, so remember we had that little anchor stitch, our anchor stitch right there. I'm gonna actually come up right like by that anchor stitch, right on the inside of that so I'll show you guys here, that inside of that last loop, and inside of that last loop, and we are going to just start from there. And it's going to hide that little anchor stitch, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. So I'm going to go in the same spot, back out, wrap around the back. There we go. Let's shape that a little bit more. There. And we're going to keep going. So right here, I think I can probably get like 3 more stitches in there, so I'm going to kind of divide this in my head to get 3 more. And there's 1. 2. We could have maybe fit 1 more in. All right, so the last one is going to be a little bit different, though. Normally, if you were just stitching a line, you would just do another one of those little anchor stitches when you got to the end of the line, but we're doing this circle. And this circle is going to like end up at, this side of the circle. So instead of just doing 1 more stitch and doing an anchor stitch, I can actually go underneath that last stitch. So I'm underneath that last stitch here. And I can just pull through that and then go back down in the hole, that original hole. And it'll just look like a total continuation of the line. There's no way you can tell like where I started or stopped. It's just like hooked up to the last one. So that's that. That is our first little bit there. Our first chain stitch, but I actually have a lot of floss left on here, so I think I might actually start stitching some of these running stitches, just because I do have like all this floss on here. Or I could come back later. Maybe I'll come back later. I kind of want to have some of this text stitched before I do these running stitches, because then I can, instead of like jumping across the letter, I can kind of go around the letter a little bit. So maybe I'll just wait. So I'm going to weave in the end. I know we just did like 3 stitches, but That's how it is sometimes. So I'm going to weave in this end, and I'll save this piece of floss for later. Then I can do the outline, that second outline. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So this inner outline is going to be a different color. So I'll show you how to do the reverse chain stitch, which is sometimes a little bit easier than the normal chain stitch where you got all those loops. This is going to look basically the same, but it's almost as if we're doing it backwards. So, all right, let's grab our next floss color. This is the goldenrod color. And I'm just going to get that 24 inches or so again. Unwind a little bit there. Okay, so here's that. Let's throw that on the needle minder. Let's do that separation. So I'm just going to kind of bump the ends a little bit just to you can start seeing the separation of the 6 strands there. Oh, you have to watch the seam of the granny square. I know that's the biggest problem I had with the granny square quilt is just working on my seam allowance, I think. All right, so I've kind of separated them. I'm going to just kind of grab, like isolate one of them and kind of pull on it a little bit. So I got the one strand again. I'm holding the rest in between my fingers, and we are just going to pull that out. Oop, it's not pulling. I'm just going to yank on the end a little bit here just to loosen it. Oh, it's not coming. There we go. I think it got looped around itself there, but there we go. Pull it, it pops out there. How do you calculate how much floss to start with for a stitch? Like the length of floss here, or like how big a stitch should be? For the length of this floss that I use, I always go around 24 inches. If you do too much, like more than that, you're gonna be like moving your arm like a ton, and you're gonna get a really sore arm really quickly. So that's why I use 24 inches. I used to, like when I started embroidery, I used to just get like a huge piece of floss, and I'm like, this will last me forever, and I won't have to start and stop all the time. But it would get tangled more, it would get knotted more, and actually there is another reason for a shorter thread, and it's you're basically kind of damaging your floss every single time you pull it through the fabric because of just the friction, like the rubbing against the fibers of your floss. So if you're doing that over, like, you know, if you have like 4 feet of floss or something that you're trying to do, you're just rubbing on that floss, so it's getting weaker and weaker. So if you have a shorter amount, like this is probably a little bit more than 24 inches. I don't know, I'm just kind of estimating. But if you have that about 24 inches, then, you know, you're reducing the damage because you don't have as much floss. But really, you're reducing damage on your shoulder and all that too. For stitch length, for that, here, this is a different width here. I'm going to just snip the ends here, and I'm going to weave in the ends, and then we'll get started. But for stitch length, you can do, I mean, it's really personal preference for how wide or how like long you want your stitches. I don't think you have to have them be totally the same throughout. I mean, it's up to you. It's definitely a look. I tend to make my stitches a little bit bigger if I'm going like down a straightaway, like just a long line, or like just like a gradual arch. And I make my stitches a lot smaller when I'm going around a tight curve. Because a stitch is basically a straight line, right? Any stitch is basically a straight line. So if you have less of those around a curve, it's going to look more pointy. But if you do more, you're going to get the illusion of the roundness because you'll have more of those straight lines changing angles. So I usually do more tiny stitches around tight curves. All right, this little guy is kind of popping out. I'm just gonna snip those. And mine are about, around 1/8 of an inch. Sometimes on the longer ones, they'll be maybe another 1/16 of an inch on top of that. Okay, let's, where do I come up on here? All right, so I'm going to do a reverse chain stitch now. So it'll look just the same. It'll actually go in the opposite direction. As this, like the bloop is kind of on the left of these. This one's going to go the opposite direction. But if you remember the anchor stitch, that was just that tiny little stitch that we did to end that first piece of floss, like when we ran out of floss. So that's kind of like the end of a row. So we're going to do the end of the row first, and then kind of work backwards, basically. So the reverse, like in the reverse of what we did. So a reverse chain stitch. So I'm going to just make a tiny little stitch here. And I'm not even going to pull it totally tight, but that's like our anchor stitch. But right now there's no loop. It's not anchoring anything down, but that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to go my first stitch. So to start a reverse chain stitch, you got to do this one weird thing with the anchor stitch, but after that it's all the same. So I'm actually going to go into that stitch, that tiny, tiny little stitch that we just did, and pull it through. Let's tighten it up. There we go. And then I'm going to go back in that exact same hole that I came up in. All right, there we go. So that is our first chain stitch there. Looks just like a normal chain stitch, but it looks like the end of it, right? We have that little anchor stitch there. All right. Our next stitch, we're going to come up, that little over 1/8 of an inch or whatever away on the line. And now I'm going to just duck under both of those stitches. So I haven't gone through the fabric. I'm just going underneath those stitches. And we're just going to go underneath them and then back in that hole again here. There we go. And that's our second reverse chain stitch. So I don't have to make that loop and pull my needle up through the loop anymore. We don't have to do any of that with the reverse chain stitch. I just come up, go underneath the last stitch, both of those stitches, pull it through, and then go back down. So this is a great, excellent way to do the chain stitch. It gets rid of that loopy mess that you have to sometimes deal with. So this may be an easier way to do the chain stitch if you're having trouble with the normal chain stitch. This is the reverse chain stitch. So we're kind of just doing it backwards, right? I think it's relaxing. I like doing it this way. I suppose we could still do the sewing method way of doing it. So like right now I'm doing the stabbing method where I come up, straight up, all the way through, and then straight all the way down. But the sewing method is where you go in and out in the same motion. That's kind of what we were doing in the last one. So in this method, we could do the sewing method, not at this part, not going underneath, but like right here, we can go in and out to the next stitch. There, that's how we'll do it. All right, pull tight, and then we can just loop underneath those stitches again. Then here we can go in and out. Ooh, fun! I'm not sure I've ever done the sewing method of the reverse chain stitch before, so this is fun. The sewing method, that's again where you go in and out in the same motion, like this, like in and out. I think it's like way faster, but I find it sometimes more difficult to get super duper accurate. It's easier if you have your fabric a little looser in the hoop though, so I like loosening it a bit. I'm thinking we may run out of this floss too, like what we did with the other one. I think I would have learned to cut a hair extra, but it's actually fine. I'm okay with starting another piece. So if you haven't been here for one of our embroidery of the months before, it's the third full week of every month we work on the special embroidery of the month that is only available during that month. And I'm here like an hour. We work on it an hour or so. So we'll see how far we get tonight, and then we'll pick it up again tomorrow. So this will be like the whole week. Oh, thanks, Kimmy. Kimmy says you're so talented. I hate myself for not learning tatting and embroidery from my grandmothers. Yeah, that's that. I feel that way with a lot of things too, for sure. I learned knitting. Or I learned crochet, basically. I learned crochet. I think I learned knitting from like my friend's mom, but I got into it a lot with my grandma, and I learned how to crochet from my grandma. Tatting, though, man, I've tried that once, and that one was a little tough to wrap my brain around, but that's something I'd like to try and learn again. But it's never too late to jump into any of that, especially now when you can like watch videos on how to do tatting and all that. Then you can still get that connection. I definitely, whenever I crochet, I think of my grandma, and I got her crochet hooks when she passed, and I still use them for sure and think about her. All right, I think I could get 2 more stitches here, maybe. 1. Oops, I gotta go underneath this one. Confused myself there. Okay, so now if this was the end of a normal row again, like a row that I'm not like hooking back up on itself, I would just finish my stitch, and I'd go back down here, right? And then I'd be done. I wouldn't have to do an anchor stitch or anything, because I'd be kind of back like at the normal start. I'd be already on the back. I could just weave in my end and be done. For this one, to get it to look as if it's hooking up into the last loop, like what we did last time, for the reverse chain stitch, I'm just going to come up. My last stitch, I'm going to come up in that last loop. So I'm going to hide that anchor stitch that we started with. Again, I'm just going to hide that by stitching over it. So I came up within that last loop, then I'm going to go underneath, like normal, underneath those 2 loops, and then go back in that last loop. There we go. And again, you would never know where we started and stopped at all. It would just be right connected. That's what's so fun about chain stitch with these circles, I think. That's just really, really kind of neat. There we go. We got our first kind of big chunk done. I always, I was talking about how I choose where to start a little bit, and I always like starting where I feel like I'm going to get like some fun impact right away too. So like by just getting those 2 circles of the sun done, I feel like I've got a lot done already. Oh, Lynn says, Alyssa, you do your circles so good. Mine are lumpy. Oh, take a photo once, like post it in the Penguin and Fish Crafters group. I'll kind of see if I can diagnose it. I suspect it just may be a little bit of an inconsistency in how you're pulling the thread through, kind of to try and keep that shape of them, but I'm not positive. Oh, Nora says mine are too. Yeah, throw some photos in the Penguin and Fish Crafters group on Facebook. I'd love to just see. All right, That, this, I just had a little piece of thread left. This probably isn't enough to do anything, but I'll save it still. If I run out of stitches later and just need, like, 2 more inches, then we'll be fine. All right, but the back is looking real nice yet. No knots back there. Oh, Brie Nicole, you should. It's so fun. Embroidery is such a relaxing and creative. Like, you feel like you're making creative decisions all the way along the way. But it's just a relaxing craft. And I like saying, like, if you can color, you can embroider. Because we are just kind of staying on the lines. That's it. It's like coloring in the lines. So you just learn a couple stitches and you're basically good to go at that point. But yeah, I do tons of videos and stuff too, so if you ever need help, just let me know. And I do have a Q&A on my main, my profile page on TikTok, so you can ask questions there too, and I'll do little videos to answer. I just put that up. All right, let's see. What do we want to do next here? I mean, we could just finish the face. Should we just do the face right away? Kind of there. Let's just get this thing completely done on the inside here. So, all right, I have the teddy bear thread. That is the face color. I think after this, I think I'm going to make the little flower, smiley flower dude next. Oh, Lynn says, I traced my pattern on the sulky stick and stitch with a pen I got at Joann's. I like your tracing pen better. Oh, good. Oh, awesome. That's awesome, Lynn. The water soluble marker, I do like those. Yeah, those are by Clover. They're nice and thin. All right, I'm getting that 24 inches or so again. I just estimate I get about like between 18 inches and 24 inches. Brie, we also have, or Brie Nicole, we also have a free pattern on our website that actually comes with like 14 emails for like a stitch for each day. So you can learn 14 different embroidery stitches. And actually next week, we are going to be stitching that. It's a free sampler. If you go to just our website, our link, it will be just on the top. It'll say like free embroidery sampler. It's a cute little raccoon, like a raccoon stitching. Oh, just at penguinandfish.com. In my profile, just click that link in my profile and it'll get you to our TikTok page. That'll get you there. Oh, we also have a percentage off there too. So, yep, just on the profile page. But yeah, that free pattern, that free stitch sampler. So for all you guys, that stitch sampler will be stitching next week. So the rest of this month is going to be super duper embroidery packed. And let me just grab it. So here's that stitch sampler. So this is what we will be stitching next week. I think it'll take a little bit longer than the week. So we might actually go into August a little bit. But I think this will be fun. So there's 14 different stitches that we'll learn, and then they're applied up on top here. So that's next week's project, and that's, again, it's a free pattern. We do have kits available though as well that are just like this, where it's pre-printed and everything. Otherwise, the PDF is the free pattern, and you get those 14 days of how to do the stitches, and we got all. And we're going to do it live next week. But that'll be fun. I'm excited to stitch that. It's just neat doing all those different stitches all in one little piece like that is neat. Oh, cool, yes. That'd be awesome. Thanks, Brie Nicole. All right. Brown, where are we at? Oh, yeah, let's do the face here. So what's that all about? I think it is just a back stitch. So on here, the back stitch are the thin lines, and that's the thin line. The thick lines, which are just basically these two lines there, that's the chain stitch. So we're actually done with the chain stitch. There isn't any more chain stitch in this piece. There's 4 stitches total in this particular one. So that's the back stitch, so we'll be doing that next. And then, yeah, I think I want to do this little flower guy. But it's actually, Geez, people, it's already 9:20. Holy cow. All right, so I think we'll just probably be able to finish the face here. And then tomorrow we'll get cruising on this, I think, for sure. We had to put the kit together and stuff tonight, but tomorrow we'll do this flower right away, and then I think we'll get started on the feeling good text. All right, so I'm going to, let's just start with this little smiley mouth, and we'll end with the eyes. So I'm going to weave in the ends again. I want to end up where I want to start, which is like right there. One little uneven end, so I'll snip the uneven ends out of there. 2 and 3. All right, yeah, let's snip those little baby ends. That's getting a little picky. I didn't really need to snip that. Okay, so back stitch. I'm gonna do this little arc first. So right there, his little cheeky cheeks. So for a back stitch, I'm actually gonna start, I'm not gonna start at the beginning of the row. I mean, you can, but technically for a back stitch, I'm gonna start like 1 stitch forward. So I think I can do this in 3 stitches. So I'll go 1, 2, 3. So I'm starting like a stitch into it, and then I'm going to go backwards to the beginning of the row. So that's my first back stitch. And then the next one, you can see me like kind of move my needle on the back here. That's how I kind of get in the right spot. So I'm going to go the next stitch up the line, and then we're going to go back right in the exact same hole as our last stitch there. And that's the back stitch. Let's do our last one, going 1 more stitch up the line, and back in that last hole. All right, so there is our first little cheeky cheek. And all right, so I'm gonna do the back stitch on the smile here. Let's go down the line, and then go backwards for a stitch. Down the line, another stitch, and back to that same hole. Oh, Nolene says, I nearly finished the sampler. Love doing it. Oh, good. Yay. I'm excited to get going on it. So we'll probably learn a couple stitches at the bottom, that little how-to area. And then we'll jump up to the top and stitch a little bit of those areas, and then come back down and learn a few more stitches or 1 more stitch, and then jump back up. It's a little bit different. That sampler, we'll stitch it a little bit differently than how I normally stitch. Like, I wouldn't normally just pick 1 stitch and then only stitch that stitch. I'd probably like pick a color and work on that color with different stitches. So it's going to be a little kind of goofy, just kind of the way we stitch it, but I think it'll work. I think it'll be fun still. All right, 1 more stitch. There's our little smiley smile. All right, and let's do his little kind of cheek thingies with those 3 stitches again. All right, so I'm gonna be a little picky here for a moment, and mostly because I'm going to be probably doing it a lot down here, but I am not gonna jump straight up and do the eye and then jump straight across and do the other eye. I think I don't want to see that jump behind the fabric. Like if I went from like here to here, I mean, you can see that long jump, right? So I kind of don't want that. I don't want to see those markings. So what I think I'm going to do, and this is real picky, I mean, I could just jump up there and be done. That'd be fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my stitches on the edge here to right here, and then jump to the eye and stitch the eye, and then probably go back, and then go all the way around this side, and then jump to this eye. And then I won't have a stitch right in the middle. It'll be kind of on the sides, but I think that'll look a little bit nicer if you happen to see it. Like if this was hanging somewhere and you could, you know, see all the stitches on the back. So I'm going to kind of jump over to here and crawl up behind the stitches till I get to like where I'm going to start that eye. And then I'm going to jump in and do that eye. I think we'll do 4 stitches. This looks like maybe 4 to get this arc. So my stitches are getting a little bit smaller here, but that's because this is a pretty tight curve, and if I want that to feel like an arc, I gotta put a few more stitches in there. Otherwise it'll just feel like a pointy diamond. Alright, so here's where I'm being super picky. Instead of jumping straight across, I'm gonna just go in the back of these stitches again and follow the backs of these stitches, so you won't be able to see this on the front because those other stitches will be hiding it. So I'm going back, a little too far, back over here, and then now we'll start that second eye. So you can still see, like, you can still see those edges here, but I think those are in kind of nicer spots than straight through like the bridge of the nose. Picky though, super picky. You have to feel like you need to do that. You can just jump right across. But we'll be doing that a little bit down here. Like I don't want to, this running stitch kind of goes all the way through here, but I don't want to like go right behind the letter, although I think I did over here. Yeah, I just jumped behind on the example one. So I don't know, maybe we'll do that, or maybe we won't. Maybe I'll go around the edges just so you don't have any lines popping behind there, but we'll see. And now I can basically weave in that end. I think I'm going to jump back here though to do that because there's just more stitches to weave in here. Oops, that's kind of got that caught in a different spot that I wanted. All right, 2 and 3. And we have a little left in case we need it later. But there, our back is looking awesome still. It almost looks like he has little eyelashes or something, right? So, there we go. All right, you guys, I think that's what we will get done here tonight. So we didn't get a ton done, but we will. We'll get faster as we go the next few days because I'm already set up here. So tomorrow we will do the satin stitch and the little smiley guy here. So here's what that'll look like. A lot of like fun little stitches there, and I think we'll definitely get going on the text. So I suspect, let's see, Tuesday, I think we'll get this done, and you know, if I had to guess, I'd say a portion of this text, and then Wednesday we'll probably finish the text and be able to start doing the running stitches. So we would actually finish this by Thursday. That'd be kind of cool. And then maybe we can finish it up really nicely. I can show you how I like finishing the back. We could do something like that on Friday potentially. So all right, you guys, thanks again for joining me here. All right. right. So thank you again. We'll be working on this again for the rest of the week. Then we'll be working on that raccoon sampler. I think this is going to be really fun to stitch that next week. And I will be back here at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, and I think we'll do the TikTok version of this live every night during that as well. So I'll be on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok this week for this. So awesome. Thank you guys again for joining me. And if you have any questions throughout this week, feel free to post in the Facebook group or on the question and answer area in my profile on TikTok. And we will get going on it. But there we are for the night. All right. Have a good evening, everyone. See you later. Good night.